My name is Patricia Lamminer. I graduated May 2023 with a bachelor's in chemical engineering. I currently work for Rio Tinto at their boron site, and I'm a graduate process engineer. So right now, my team, we provide support to the plants. Actually, a unique part of our plant of our site is that we have a mine site and a processing plant all in one location. So I work in the processing plant, and from there I give technical support throughout the process. I'm kind of new, so I'm still learning just the plant and how it works. But one of the biggest thing is learning how to talk to people and interface with operators, different departments. And as an engineer, you're supposed to have like the solution for every problem, but when you're new, you don't really know. So I've been trying to learn from my teammates, and right now I'm like the only engineer at my plant. So I reach out to my leader and previous engineers that's worked on my plant. Day to day, I look through trends and data to see if anything in the process is going wrong. And because sometimes operators out there, they know physically what's going on, but they won't really know what the impacts are long term. So my job is to look through it, see what's affecting that problem and seeing how we can solve it, and before it gets too big and affect our final product or anything down the line. So day to day, it's a little different. There's projects, I have big projects to increase efficiency within our process, but then there's just some projects that are little and to make sure the operators are happy and making sure everything in the process is doing well. One thing is being able to apply what I've learned from school, even like the small stuff, to my day-to-day. I've never realized I would actually need to read my textbook again, but here I am reading like heat mass, or even like process controls, and just kind of like reminding myself what the terms mean and it's actually really important out where I work, because I work closely with controls engineers to make sure technically if a machine, how everything is operated, and the background is, if you're all out there, if you know what chemical engineering is, that one class we have to take for process controls, that actually we have to apply it. And it's just having to know what the words and how to explain it to everyone. That's one thing. And also being able to like realize, I think one other part is I was part of a lot of student organizations, so emails were written and meetings were made, and it was really cool just to be able to do that again. So I've been talking to vendors and clients, and just being able to interface with them. My non-technical skills have been applied in the last few months, so that's really exciting. And I think what I really do like about my company is we have a strong mentorship program within just the team or the site, and also just overall in the company. So I've been getting to know people in my team, as well as people in like Australia or our different sites in Canada. We have the graduate program. So the program that I'm in, it's called the graduate program, and we've had bi-weekly meetings where we get to hear from different people from the company all over the world. So learning about waste management, or I think we had asset management, so different topics that relate to different sites and the different operations that we have. So that's really cool. Even going back to like my, I think, sophomore year when I was looking for my first internship, one thing that I did learn from all the professional development organizations on campus was the ERG groups, or I think that's what they're called. But I think it's so it's either you can, if you're really passionate about the environment, or if there's like women allyship kind of groups, or even more on ethnicity. So I think there's the Asian support group, or Hispanic engineers, and even like out in STEM. So we have those organizations on campus. So that's what I wanted to look for out there in industry. And bigger companies actually have those support groups. And so that's something that I really, really wanted to be a part of. And I have friends who are in smaller companies and they have smaller versions of it. But the bigger the company, sometimes it's definitely more virtual rather than like a in-person meetup. And that's what I found in my company, which it's a multinational company. So there are some connections and there are some networks, but I think the hard part was having something in person. But luckily, my site, we actually do have a kind of, I think it's called what's it called? I think it's our diversity, inclusion, and access group. But the thing is, on site, it's not. The minorities we're very much minorities, so it is kind of hard to for them to fully present topics that are relevant to everyone. And unfortunately, tokenism has become a big thing that I've seen, because I have a coworker, he's of South Asian descent, and he just got pushed into this role because he's the only South Asian descent on site. So suddenly, because you're a person of color, you're supposed to be you're the one person that can talk about it. And I know there are some people that they're just wary of what they can say. So for me, I'm very comfortable talking about it because that's what I've been doing in my years at Mines throughout university. So I was kind of like, I want to do it. And so that's an important part of me. A part of me is knowing that a company does acknowledge that we need diversity, we need to be more accessible, and we need to be more inclusive. But it's weird because I wish I had hoped I could be more doing the stuff that I did in university. But the reality is, when you're in industry, priorities are different, and sometimes they don't really prioritize what DI&A, which every company should, but reality is sometimes they don't. In my team, it's around, right, there's been some changes, but right now we're about 50% women, 50% men. But when I was an intern, I think it was more like 70%. Either way, I've had a lot of support and a lot of mentors in the women engineers that I've met on site. So it was really cool just to be able to see their perspective and how they get through the day, because though our team is very female dominated, when we split off to our different plants, it's usually like one woman in one site. And I've talked to friends about this, where we're like, it's not women in STEM, it's women in STEM. And when you're at Mines, you have this support group, whether we are we're only 30% at Mines, but we still have friends in classes, and we kind of just gather together. We had SWE, but then in the workplace, same kind of vibe. I'm so thankful that my team, I do have women to look up to and to have support, and the men in my team are also very supportive as well, and they're very understanding. But when we're in our site, I'm the only woman in my, maybe there's two other women that I interact with, but in my plant, I'm the only one. And so it's nice to be able to talk to my teammates, because they're in the same situation. They're in their own plant, but they're the only one. So I'm like, how do you deal with, when we're in a room full of not only awesome human beings, but they are usually older, and they are usually men, and they've been in the industry for so long, and so they have this experience. And sometimes you don't feel comfortable voicing your opinions. So I often ask them, how do you deal with that? How do you make yourself known even though you're new? And a lot of the people in my team are newish. They've, in the last 5 years, so they still remember what it's like to be like the new kid in the team. So I've asked them, like, hey, like, what do I say? Like, how do I get on their good graces and be able to voice my opinions? Or how do I like connect with the people in my plant? Because it's hard, because it's, I had to like learn about football to be able to be part of like the team. So it's just been great to be able to have like a support system and just like seeing their path. And I have like a mentor, and I have a coworker. She's had like different experiences, but I think she's been in the industry in the mining industry specifically for the last, I think, 8 years. And it's cool to be able to hear her story from, as a young engineer to now as a senior engineer. So that's been really nice to be able to have a support group. And I know our site also has a women in mining group. And I think we had a conference a year ago, but before I started. So I think there are some plannings for the next few in the next few months, and it's also, it connects us to not only our site but sites. We have another U.S. site is in Utah, so I think last year a lot of people came to our site, so hopefully I can go to I don't know, another site. But it's been really nice to be able to do that. But I think as a woman, just being alone, just being the only woman in my plant, it was a little hard at the beginning, just to kind of just have someone to talk to. But thankfully everyone's super nice and very understanding and very helpful, and whenever I ask questions. So it was weird in the beginning, but now it's pretty good now. In the job searching, it's okay if you don't have all the skills that are listed in that job description. Just find a way to adapt. Just be like, I think that's something, like, that's a scary part. It's like, oh, they have like 10 things they want, and you think you only have 6, but actually you probably have all 10. It's just you have like the baby version of all 10. But still put yourself out there, and don't give up, and don't be discouraged if you think you're not qualified, because you probably are. And one thing is that I've learned, just be, in the last few months, is it's okay to not know anything or a lot in general, because your first job is, at least for me, it's felt like freshman year of college again, where you know the basics when you go into college. You know math, the basic calculus, math, or everything, but then you go in there, you're like, oh wait, I don't, and I have to relearn this. So it's okay. And imposter syndrome has been like the one thing I think me and like a couple friends have like dealt with, and it's super normal. So when you're looking for that job, it's fine. Just take that leap of faith and kind of like fake it till you make it kind of attitude, and it really does help. And then rely on the resources we have on campus, because it's really great. Just whether it be from clubs or the Career Center, or even organizations like MEP, there's always a support system, and us seek advice on your resume or your cover letter, just the way that you present yourself. And people have so many different advice. And I think my other advice, and also whether it's like the job searching or even learning about the company, and then maybe even when you get the offer, is to look through the benefits that are offered, because I think my main theme of the last few months is like adulting, and I thought college was adulting, but there's a different version of adulting when you're out of college. And so looking at, and I think sometimes sometimes you don't get the opportunity to really look into it or understand it before you start the job. But if you can, and if you have, whether reach out to your leader or maybe someone of that in the same industry, and compare and contrast just what benefits you get, whether it be health benefits. Relocation has been a big one, because I had to move out of state, and so I've seen other companies, they don't necessarily they just give you a stipend, but then you don't get it until like a month after you start. But unfortunately, like the company that I work for, like my company was kind enough to be able to actually deal with everything, with all that for me. So I had an agent that I got to talk to, and they literally just worked through all the logistics and helped me move from Colorado to California. But some people don't have that, so I think that's one thing that I've learned is just to really look into, ask questions, ask like, what is your health benefit, like what are the options you get, and if you can, and relocation and 401k, like all these different things that we're not necessarily taught in. So definitely ask those questions because they're very helpful when you start, and also and I think just the transition between college and you're getting out there, and your job is just kind of just remember that you're almost done. You're getting that degree, so you do have a good foundation. That's kind of my advice. I might think of more, but that's like my main advice, just the transition between college and our careers.